What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. Hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you are ready and excited for the quarterfinal college football playoff games, that you're ready and excited for New Year's. I don't know, that you've got something going on to distract you from the fact that the Dallas Cowboys got totally, absolutely, unequivocally, completely worked on Sunday afternoon by the Philadelphia Eagles. There's a lot to unpack about this game. There's a lot to unpack about the kind of state of the Cowboys, obviously, as a result of it all. And it's exactly what we're going to do here in the Bleacher Report app, the very best app in the world of sports. I use it to keep track of all of my teams, including my Arizona State Sun Devils, who are getting set to play in the college football quarterfinal this coming Wednesday. Looking forward to it. I might smoke a pulled pork. We'll see how that goes. Either way, Bleacher Report app rocks. You can keep track of all your favorite teams. Man United plays tomorrow. I can't be let down even more in a sports sense this week, so I really need them to pick me up. Yeah, follow me here in the Bleacher Report app. You can see all the streams that I do. I'll be hanging out with you a lot. Obviously, talking Cowboys, even though the season's going to end, we have one more game left before this thing is finally mercifully over. You can follow me on social media. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at RJ Ochoa. TikTok is RJ.Ochoa. All right, so the Dallas Cowboys lost on Sunday 41-7. 41-7, the final score. I shortchanged the Eagles. This is my general take, and I know this is going to sound like coping. I know this is going to sound like I'm just trying to, convince myself of something. I promise this is not coming from the perspective of being some sort of homer Dallas Cowboys fan. In fact, if you follow me or have paid attention to anything I've done or created or talked about or whatever the case may be, not just this season, but I would like to imagine over the course of my career, you would understand that I'm pretty objective. And as of late, being objective means being pretty hard on the Dallas Cowboys. But that being said, what I'm about to say is going to sound like it's not being hard on them. To be clear, this team stinks, and this team stinks because they're the Cowboys. I see you, how high says my only question after this game is why did we sign Zeke? I'll come back to that question, I promise. Let me kind of opening monologue this for you. I think that the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm not saying this is a visionary take by any stretch, but I think the Dallas Cowboys understood the assignment, that they knew that whenever they were formally eliminated from playoff contention, whenever that ultimately came to pass, that they were going to call the horses off. They were going to, chill out. They were going to kind of let things be what they were. I know we're all Team Tank, and we have an NFL draft order update, obviously, after the early window of games on Sunday afternoon. And I think that obviously the Cowboys were formally eliminated last Sunday about this time, actually, but they were already set to play that night against the Buccaneers. They kind of had to go at it the way they had intended. I think that they just went about things and they won that game, and it was fun and it was cool. But with a week's, worth of time to sit on everything and understand what was going on, they shut down CeeDee Lamb. They had so many players, obviously, who have been hurt and continue to be hurt. And they said, you know what, if we lose on Sunday, it will suck. And I know that our fans want to beat the Eagles and everything, but it is ultimately the best thing for our team. I'm not saying, again, or intimating that the Cowboys had some sort of code red that they authored, but I do think that the Dallas Cowboys were comfortable with going to Philadelphia, trying hard, maybe putting some good things on tape to hopefully have for the future, but ultimately leaving with a better position in NFL draft order. And in fact, as I say that, NFL Tankathon must be seeing an influx of attention because their website looks crazy right now. So we'll see if I can get that up on your screen in just a moment. But the Dallas Cowboys did not play the way they had over the course of the last 5 weeks. I don't think it takes a genius to see that or to say that. They played like a team who just kind of wanted to get this thing over with, and not just this game, this specific game against the Eagles, but the rest of this season. This season has sucked. This season has been terrible for the Dallas Cowboys. Again, I don't think that I'm saying anything that you don't feel or haven't felt at some point yourself, but I think the Dallas Cowboys understood that, the Tankathon is definitely getting overloaded with different people. We'll see if we can get that up on your screen in just a moment here. But Just a Fan 94 says, my thought for bringing Zeke back is Jerry was either one, too cheap for King Henry, or two, Dak may have talked him into bringing him back. I'm leaning more towards the former. The former, your opinion here being that he was too cheap for King Henry. So it's worth mentioning that Rico Dowdle reached 1,000 yards rushing on the season in this game. That was objectively a very cool thing. In fact, you're looking at my screen here. Let's get down past the ads. Rico Dowdle hits 1,000 yards rushing on the season. He is the first undrafted free agent running back in Dallas Cowboys franchise history to do this. And look, he did 1,000, or he had 1,000 yards, I should say, in 16 games. He didn't need the 17th game of the regular season. He also did not get serious work until about halfway through the season. Rico Dowdle had single-digit carries in each of his first 3 games. He had single-digit carries in 4 of his first 6 games. And as you recall, the Cowboys very, very, very infamously in Week 8 when they visited the San Francisco 49ers, had Rico Dowdle show up on the injury report or the whatever you want to call it report right before kickoff with a mysterious illness on what was about to be the precipice of having to make Zeke Elliott a healthy scratch for the very first time since drafting him in 2016. So to all of your points, to all of your questions about why the Cowboys brought Zeke back, this is just my opinion. I think the Dallas Cowboys wanted Zeke back. I think that's what it was. I think they wanted one of their favorite people back in the organization, come hell or high water. Come what may, right? Who cares what happens if we suck or whatever, because we're the Cowboys and we can control things. Let me offer to you, in case that sounds a little bit ridiculous, that it was just now 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago at this point in time, that the Dallas Cowboys brought Jason Witten out of retirement, out of the Monday Night Football booth, and let him not only come back to play for them, Jason Witten, who was fine, by the way, in 2019, but come back and start ahead of Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz at the time. If you are on the list, the Dallas Cowboys Jones favorite, whatever you want to call it list, you get some different treatment. And that's my own guess, my own assumption, my own dot connecting as far as what happened. The Cowboys wanted Zeke back, and they were going to shove it down our throats until it became untenable, until it became just too much, and they had to ultimately turn to Rico Dowdle and whatever. I guess he can have 1,000 yards. Cool beans. Matthew Lee 2025 says still funny to get Zeke, who can barely get 2 yards, but Hunt was out there for 3 million. Our top five touchdown scorer for Cleveland history in like 4 years. Matthew Lee adds, I agree, but terrible instincts. He sells jerseys. I don't know anybody. I mean, if you guys do, then good for you, I guess. I don't know anybody who bought a Zeke Elliott 15 jersey, but the whole thing, I have pushed back in my career many different times at the idea of the Dallas Cowboys doing this or that for money. This season has made that very, very, very difficult and will make it very difficult for a very long time. But having Zeke Elliott return just to have him wear a different jersey number and sell more jerseys was a very classic cliche Dallas Cowboys thing. But that being said, Zeke Elliott did get some action in this game. If you're curious, the loss that the Dallas Cowboys just had, let's take a look at the body now that it is officially over with. As you can see, Rico Dowdle had that 23 carry, 104-yard performance. He only needed 97 yards to reach 1,000 on the season. So he did, and good for him. Kevontae Turpin, 2 carries, 18 yards. The Zeke Elliott that we're all talking about right here, who is at a point now where the Cowboys are, where Zeke Elliott's getting touches in a 41-7 blowout in Philadelphia in the penultimate week of the regular season with Trey Lance in at quarterback, the original number 15 on this team, if you want to call him original. But that being said, Zeke Elliott, 3 carries, 2 yards, averaging 0.7 yards per carry. Think about this. One of Zeke's carries went for 5 yards. All right, so he had 3 carries. All right, that was his long run of the day. He had 1 carry for 3 yards. He finished the day with 2 yards. That means between his other 2 carries, they combined for -3 yards. Think about that. And look, I didn't mean this to turn into like a bag on Zeke Elliott thing. Zeke Elliott's been a wonderful player for the Cowboys. He's responsible for a lot of wonderful memories that you and I have. I stand by that. But in this game, he had a carry that went for 5 yards, and he finished with 3 carries and 2 yards. So he had 2 carries outside of that 5-yard carry that went for -3 yards total. From a passing standpoint, this was a basura game from Cooper Rush. My goodness gracious. 15 of 28 for a $147. Had the touchdown to Jalen Tolbert, which was very nice, and did have 2 interceptions. In fact, this is the second time in Cooper Rush's career, which is pretty expansive at this point. He started, a lot of games over the last now, what will be 4 full years, even though he was an undrafted free agent himself 7 years ago. But that being said, this was only the second time in Cooper Rush's career in which he's thrown multiple interceptions in a game. The other time that he did so was 2 years ago, also at Philadelphia. So this is truly a house of horrors for Cooper Rush in that sense. D. Hines 4 says, I don't understand why Trey Lance wasn't put in the game. It was over mid-third quarter. Again, I mean, I'm certainly not arguing with you, D. Hines 4, but I think the answer for that is because they're the Dallas Cowboys, because they know that they stepped in it. They can't explain it. They can't rationalize it. They can't make it better. They can't undo it. So they're going to do what they want and how they want and when they want, because ultimately they're the people who get to make those decisions. I mean, that's really the ultimate answer. So if we look at this from a receiving standpoint, Brandon Cooks in the game without CeeDee Lamb, obviously, 4 receptions, had a nice bit of production early on. For 52 yards, he was the leading receiver on the day for the Cowboys. It was just a very, very, very tough day in that overall sense. A lot of you were talking about Zeke as a fullback. All due respect, guys, I don't think we have to talk about Zeke anymore. Like, that's not the story from this game in my mind. But I agree with you all that Trey Lance should have been playing. I mean, the Eagles got through 2 quarterbacks, right? I mean, obviously, we hope Kenny Pickett's okay. You never want any player to get injured. He seemed okay, obviously hanging out on the sidelines. Played well, I thought. 10 of 15 for a $143 himself. Had the touchdown. Tanner McKee comes in 3 for 4 for 54 yards for 2 touchdowns himself, 1 to A.J. Brown, 1 for Devontae Smith. So he made sure anybody who started Devontae or A.J. in their fantasy championships, didn't go hungry in that sense. And if that's you, if you're in your fantasy championship, best of luck. I hope you ultimately find a way to win this game. Devontae Smith, if you did start him, 6 catches, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns, and had that 49-yard reception, obviously. It was a wonderful day for Devontae Smith. This was kind of the perfect game I think you could have asked for if you're an Eagles fan. And if you are and you're here, you're obviously trolling, and I respect that about you, but I also wish you pure sports unhappiness in life. Saquon Barkley, I think Saquon kind of exemplified how I feel about these two teams right now and the state of the Cowboys and the Eagles. Saquon finished, I should say, with 31 carries for 167 yards. And I say all that to say, so Rico Dowdle hit 1,000 yards this season, and it obviously happened in this game, and that's, a good thing, and he deserves a lot of props for that, and I stand by that. And I don't mean what I'm about to say as some sort of slight or demerit against Rico Dowdle, because what I'm about to say is not his fault. But at the same time, literally in the same moments, at the end of the third quarter and the start of the fourth quarter, when we all acknowledged that Trey Lance should have been in, that it was over, it was a blowout. I mean, the result was not in question at this point in time. At this moment, though, at this moment in time, the Cowboys and Eagles each have an objective that they're trying to accomplish. Right? The Cowboys are trying to get Rico Dowdle 1,000 yards, and he fumbled in the process, which was just super awkward. But they ultimately do get it. The Eagles are trying to get Saquon Barkley 2,000 yards rushing and trying to put him in position to maybe next week take home the rushing title record. And that, to me, could not exemplify the differences in these teams from a football operations standpoint to a larger degree. Because you're talking about an Eagles team, and let me be very clear with you. I hate the Eagles with just about all of me. I, again, would love for them to never win a game. I wish them all health, wealth, and happiness in life, but I hate them from an actual, football standpoint. I think we all obviously understand that perspective. And so that being said, the Eagles, though, I greatly admire. I greatly admire how they build their team, and I greatly admire how they offer no apologies, how they will do what they can to win and to win at all costs and to set records and to be loud and obnoxious in the process and to rub their rivals' face in it. That's what sports is about. That's whoever you root for, whatever teams you keep track of here in the Bleacher Report app. You want that. You want to ultimately drag your rivals. You want to humiliate them. You want to embarrass them. The Eagles swept the Cowboys today for the first time since 2017 when they won the Super Bowl. The Eagles clinched the NFC East, which they took from the Cowboys against the Cowboys in Philadelphia with all their fans, obviously, in attendance for it. And that kind of stuff is awesome. I see you, Matthew Lee 2025 says, yep, they don't care if they run it up too. I love it. That kind of stuff is annoying, obviously, when it happens against you. And obviously, we're on that side of it today. But again, I greatly admire that. So you've got this Eagles team who is just, at all costs, doing what they can to not just do the bare minimum, right? They want that all-time single-season record for Saquon Barkley so that people will forever say that was the greatest free agent signing in NFL history. I don't know that it is, right? But, the point is they're doing what they can to build their case. And on the other side of things, at literally the same time, in parallel as these things are happening, you've got Saquon and the Eagles just striving for greatness upon greatness upon greatness. And then you got the Cowboys who are like, Rico was like our second option at running back if Zeke didn't work out and if Deuce Vaughn didn't turn into something. And, we can get 1,000 yards, right? Like Greg Olsen even made a comment. Maybe you didn't have the volume up on the broadcast or you were watching at a restaurant or a bar or something like that. Greg Olsen even made a comment as soon as Rico Dowdle hit 1,000 yards. Saquon joked to himself or joked to everybody, yeah, well, I'll double that. And it was a good-natured comment from Greg Olsen. I don't think he was trying to stir the pot or anything, but that's where it's at. The Cowboys are like, well, let's get 1,000 yards. So we can always say, we had 1,000 yards this season. Now we had 1,000-yard rusher. Cool. And we can say it was the first undrafted free agent in Cowboys history to run for 1,000 yards. How awesome will that be? And so it's just doing the bare minimum. It's a matter of like, well, what do I have to do to get a C in the class, right? Like that's really what this feels like. And the C stands for Cowboys. What do I have to do to just get a C, to just pass, to just get my grade here and get out of town and graduate? Whereas the Eagles are saying, I want an A+, and I want to be on the dean's list. I want to be on the honor roll. I want any and every single accolade and achievement that you can hang around my neck when I walk that stage, because I want everybody to say that I am the very best. And that pisses me off so much that the Eagles are that way and that the Dallas Cowboys aren't. Because the Cowboys get all these flowers thrown at them, and you see them the same way that I do with their Netflix documentaries and their whatevers, and they get treated like these kings, and they've done an amazing job at building this brand, but they could not be farther away from their big brother division rivals in terms of the way they operate from a football standpoint here today. Now, the Eagles are forever the little brother. This was just me going on a bit of a rant here, so don't get, too crazy. But, man, it is so frustrating. Let's see some of your comments. Just a fan 94 says the Eagles are also not scared to tank and trade away for the future, unlike our general manager. That's a great point. I mean, the Eagles, I wouldn't call it tanking, but the Eagles traded up for Carson Wentz, and they even traded up for Carson Wentz, if you think about right after they had signed Sam Bradford and Chase Daniel, and everybody said, well, what are you going to do? And they said, we'll figure it out. We'll think our way through it, right? We'll find a way, and it'll be okay. And they won the Super Bowl, and then Carson Wentz sucked, and they still found a way out of it. They will forever be willing to think and to try and to adjust, and will always want that A+, whereas the Dallas Cowboys will settle for the C. And again, I don't mean that to sound like a negative thing, because I'm very happy for Rico Dowdle. It is very cool that he got 1,000 yards rushing, especially because he wasn't given the fair shake that he should have been given from the very beginning of the season. It was very obvious to all of us, to the whole world, that Rico Dowdle was the very best running back on this team. But the Cowboys insisted on doing things Sinatra style, their way, which is frustrating upon frustrating upon frustrating. I'm seeing if Tankathon's website has survived the onslaught of attention. It has not yet, but I will, since in lieu of that, I'll throw our rooting guide up on the screen for you here. What you're looking at now is my screen. This is my tweet, so shout out to me. You should follow me on Twitter. I'm at RJ Ochoa. This is what we were rooting for today from a Dallas Cowboys standpoint. If you can call it tanking if you'd like. You can call it draft positioning if you'd like. Some people feel comfortable and uncomfortable with different things. The week has gone very well. The Seahawks won on Thursday Night Football, if you want to call what they did winning. The Bengals beat the Broncos. We want the Bengals to win because they're closer to the Cowboys in the draft order than a lot of teams who want them to get behind Dallas. Obviously, we want to climb as many spots as we possibly can. It would have been great had the Cardinals held on late Saturday night, but whatever. It would have been awesome if the Saints had won, but that was never realistic. And look, I know that we have an X next to the Colts winning, and we do want the Colts, or would have wanted the Colts to win again so that Dallas could jump ahead of them in draft order. But the Giants won, and the Giants knocked themselves out of the number 1 overall pick, which, again, is ultimately a great thing. And ultimately, it serves as a reminder that it can always be worse. I don't say that lightly because it's, there's only a few teams that I would say are unequivocally worse than the Dallas Cowboys right now, but the New York Giants are one of them. And we've suffered a lot as Dallas Cowboys fans. And you think about it right now, it feels like, well, how's it going to get better? The draft could come and help with that in some way, shape, or form. Let's see here. Let's look at some post-game comments from members of the Dallas Cowboys. Mike McCarthy. I'm sorry, Dak Prescott spoke. This is a shout out to the Athletics' John Machota. Dak Prescott on Dallas' disappointing season. Nobody plans to lose. Nobody plans to have a losing season. You expect playoffs every year. You expect to win this division. It sucks. It's frustrating. Mike McCarthy talking about the team ending up with a losing record because that is officially the case now with Dallas now having 9 losses. Said, I'm here to finish the race. That's my mindset, and that's the team's mindset. That's fine. But, hey, it is what it is. Look, the Cowboys, let's see here, your comments. D. Hines 4 says, again, RJ, that's the problem. Joneses are trash. JJ is a narcissist. He can't get over Jimmy was the reason for the 3 Super Bowl wins. I think that you are certainly not wrong. And a lot of people say things like it will never change and blah, blah, blah. This is still, we can acknowledge that there's a huge systemic issue with the Dallas Cowboys while also acknowledging that they have some pieces that they can build around. Right, that we can acknowledge that, they're not as far off as we feel like they are. And a lot of that's just true because it's the NFL, right? You can be out of the picture one year and the next be all of a sudden all the way completely and totally in the mix, and you can have it taken away from you, right? Like think about the kind of, just kind of sine curve that the Houston Texans are right now. I mean, they're just this disaster upon disaster upon disaster. They have one magical season and they're up, and then they're feeling themselves, and now they're back down low, even though they're going to be a playoff team, in 2 weeks' time. Matthew Lee 2025 says, I actually think we are not far off, but Jerry and Mike McCarthy are in the way. Dak is still better than most. We need a wide receiver, Fox running back, but the culture, maybe you need a running back. I'm not certain what you mean there. But the culture is the problem. Look at the Chiefs. They don't win or lose by a lot. It's always close because the team is built on culture. Okay, I think that we finally have Tankathon working. Here we go. Let's take a look at the draft order. Shout out to Tankathon for making sure they powered through that. It's never an easy thing when your website is down like that. So this is as of 3:35 p.m. Central Standard Time on Sunday. Obviously, the afternoon games and the night game and Monday Night Football still have to happen. But that being said, the New England Patriots now own the number 1 overall pick. So Travis Hunter, get ready to win the Heisman and be the number 1 overall pick, unless somebody comes up for a quarterback, right? Because the New York Giants have now fallen down to 3. You got the Patriots at 1, the Titans at 2, the Giants at 3. This was a great day for the Dallas Cowboys, as mentioned. Now we look at the Dallas Cowboys. They're at 13. All right. It would have been awesome, like I said, if Arizona had won on Saturday night. But the fact that Dallas is still ahead of them is a very good thing. So you've got Dallas sitting at 13, sitting behind Indianapolis. Now, the fact that Indy is officially eliminated from the playoffs hurts the Cowboys because they have nothing to play for. Obviously, everybody in front of Dallas in that respect, those 12 teams are all out of the race, but maybe one of them will ultimately win and make things kind of fluky across Week 18. That will certainly help. But this was a good day. The Dallas Cowboys got into the top half. Again, the fact that Cincinnati won. We're obviously rooting for Miami to win today. We want all these teams to just fall further down so the Cowboys are insured. Again, maybe the Cowboys are fortunate, and maybe look, I think a great circumstance would be that Green Bay wins this game that's currently going on right now, which puts the Lions in a situation where they don't have to try and win too hard on Monday Night Football. Then the Niners can get a win, right? These are the types of things that we want to see happen. We want to see the Cowboys get up as high up as they possibly can. Top 10 is a bit of a pipe dream at this point in time, obviously, but this was a very, very, very good day for the Dallas Cowboys from a draft order standpoint, especially because they lost, right? A lot of things have been happening to and for around the Dallas Cowboys over the course of the last few weeks, but the fact that they've been winning so much has obviously put them in a position, or in the position that they currently are. So once again, shout out to Tankathon for getting their website up. That is always a very difficult thing. But I mean, let's think about things for a second here. Let's think about where they stand now for the Cowboys, because your comments are here talking about the Joneses. D. Hines Forrest, they have the pieces, but I think they are wasting a player like DeMarcus Lawrence's time. DeMarcus Lawrence, we'll see, right? Like, it's possible that DeMarcus Lawrence and Zach Martin are both gone next year. I don't think that would shock us in any way, shape, or form. And I've been saying this for some time, and I will continue to say this, and you will continue to see me here in the Bleacher Report app and on our YouTube channel and on social media, saying this anywhere and everywhere that I possibly can. We are going to know, all right? The reality, look, I'm going to watch next Saturday or Sunday, whenever this game ultimately winds up being. I would bet Sunday at noon for the Cowboys to wrap up their season. But I'm going to watch. You're going to watch. It's part of our lives. We all understand that. But we all understand that next Sunday, that today, that last Sunday night against Tampa, as fun as it was, that most of what has been happening since, I don't know, around Halloween has been effectively meaningless for the Dallas Cowboys, right? We all get that. We all understand that. So in a very weird way, like it's about to be game time, right? Like, in a very weird way, like, we're getting dressed to go out for the night. Like, it's about to become serious for the first time in a long time. I don't know when it was that you tapped out on this team. Maybe your opinion is, I never believed. I always knew it was over. I wouldn't fault you for that. But on some level, I think we all were with this until, I don't know, maybe the bye week. The bye week was week 7. The Dallas Cowboys were 3-3 at the bye. They had just gotten destroyed by the Detroit Lions, obviously. They were on their bye. Then they came out. They got waxed by the Niners. They lost in Atlanta. Dak Prescott got hurt. That was maybe, I'd say, the last point where somebody who is even really optimistic held some level of hope in this team. So let's call it then. Let's call it the Atlanta game and Dak Prescott getting hurt. That was final days of October. Let's call it from November on. We're about 2 months now into knowing that this season was over. And we're finally, you ever read a book till the end because you're like, well, I started this thing, I got to finish it, or watch a movie till the end? We're finally in the final chapter. We're finally in the closing minutes. They're tying all the storylines up in the movie that we've been watching. And we finally can, move on to a different movie, a different show, a different book. We finally can do that. We're about to be there. I mean, think about it. A week from now, 7 days, shout out to The Ring. 7 days from now, all right, this is going to be over and the real work begins. And we are going to know very soon. I would say we're going to know in 8 days, maybe 9 or 10, whether or not Mike McCarthy's coming back. That's step one. And we can have that debate. We continue to have that debate. We can continue to have that discussion. Obviously, we're running out of time to have the discussion because the Cowboys are going to have to, make a choice at this fork in the road. But then after that, after they make a decision on Mike McCarthy, whether that's to retain him or move on and find somebody else, if there's a new person in, then that's obviously going to take some time. But then it's time to get the Mike extension done. Then it's time to get the DaRon Bland extension done. And if that does not happen, If we do not get a Micah, remember me in the early days of February. Remember me in the early days of March. If you're not still hanging out with me, and if you're not, I will take extreme offense to it. All right. Remember this conversation. We will know then if they have learned anything. We will know then if they plan on being serious. If they drag the Micah extension through the mud, all the way through the offseason, all the way into training camp, through training camp. I mean, pick a day. If they do not get the Micah extension done as soon as possible, which actually is already impossible because they didn't get it done last offseason when he was first eligible. If they do not do that, they will prove all that I talked about earlier when I said, you know what, I've never really bought that they, I've always tried to give the Cowboys the benefit of the doubt. And I've always tried to, give them some grace and act like they're not just these money-hungry overlords that just want to, skate by and do what they can to cash a check. If they do not get this done, they will prove to us that they are comfortable with the C grade. They will prove to us that they are here just to hang out, just to chill and pass the class and move on while the other kids around us are trying to get the A+. They will prove that to us beyond a shadow of a doubt if they do not get the Micah extension done. All right, let's look at your comment. Just a fan 94 said, at least Micah said he doesn't want top money and wants players around him and won't hold out. I'm only going to say this, just a fan 94, from experience, right? I'm in no way pointing a finger or insinuating anything about or at Micah. His comment is perfect. What Micah said, that he doesn't want to set, any record or anything like that, that he wants players around him. All of that sounds awesome. And I'm, again, not insinuating that it was anything other than the truth. But, that is an easy thing to say until you get in the middle of contract negotiations. And we have really yet to ever see a player actually act this way, right? And Micah, the number he threw out in those, comments was, I don't need $40 million a year. Okay, that's cool. That's great to know. But right now, the market for edge rushers is 34. So the leap from 34 to 40 is already kind of massive. So when you say, I don't need 40, I'll just take 35, you are effectively saying, I will take the market rate. So I would just offer that. And to be clear, Micah deserves the market rate. Micah deserves to ask for whatever he wants to ask for because the market is the market and because he has played so well throughout the now almost 4 years of his career to start things off. So Micah, it's not Micah's responsibility to build the team around him. It's not Micah's responsibility to make sure that he takes less. It's the Dallas Cowboys' responsibility to study for this class and to get A+ grades and to make sure that they're doing their jobs to the point that they're not in situations where it's the penultimate week of the regular season and the Eagles kick their ass while their running back, who they spent on, is hitting 2,000 yards rushing on the season, and theirs, who they refuse to acknowledge or even give legitimate opportunities to because they wanted to give one of their favorite sons opportunities ahead of him, is hitting 1,000 yards against their better judgment or against any idea or thoughts that they could have possibly conceived way back in July. They are two ships passing in the night with the Eagles or the Bills or the Chiefs or the Ravens or the Lions or whatever forward-thinking, visionary, adult A+ getting team in the NFL that you want to look at. And that's not true because of the way they lost on Sunday to Philadelphia. It sucks that the Cowboys lost 41-7 against the Eagles. I'm not happy about it. You're not happy. In fact, I'm quite pissed off, and I imagine you are as well. But I think I speak for you in saying the bulk of our emotions, the energy that we are channeling, isn't directly as a result of this loss. This is how we have felt all along. We felt this way back in March of last year. We felt this way the moment we rolled our eyes at you when you said you were going to be all in. We felt this way when you talked about Jonathan Brooks ahead of the draft, and then you talked about Zeke ahead of the draft, and you brought him back. We felt this way at training camp when you still hadn't done anything, when you hadn't gotten the CD extension done or the Dak deal done, when you got the Dak deal done on the day the season began. We felt this way when, Jerry, you were arguing with the 105.3 The Fan radio host. We are tired of rolling our eyes. We need to see an A+. For once, do you know how low the bar is? We will take one A+ and act like you have a treasure chest full of them. Give us one reason to believe in you, because we have half our body out this door and you're doing everything you can to push the whole thing out. So this is a very important 2-week stretch that we are now beginning for the Dallas Cowboys, obviously, because as soon as this time next week has come, they're going to have to make a decision relative to Mike McCarthy, and then all of the dominoes around that will start to fall into place. We will see what it ultimately yields, but we will see it together, you and I, because I'll be here soon enough. I'll be here soon enough in the Bleacher Report app to discuss all things Dallas Cowboys with you. So I know that was kind of a weird stop and start, but I will be back soon enough and be back with some regularity again, starting soon enough. So that being said, if you want to follow me here in the Bleacher Report app, so you see all of my streams here in the app specifically, you can do so right down below. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm at RJ Ochoa on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. RJ.Ochoa on TikTok. RJ.Ochoa@SBNation.com is how you can email me if you would prefer. Other than that, I hope you have, in case I don't speak to you, a very happy new year. I hope it's full of joy, of opportunities, and blessings for you, your friends, your family. From my family and I to you and yours, a very, very happy, safe, blessed new year. Thank you so much. If you only watched today, or if you've watched all season long with me, or if you follow me on social media, whatever the case may be, I have my dream job, and I'm very well aware of that. And I'm very, very grateful to anybody who plays a very small part in that. So thank you so much, everybody. There are better days ahead of us for the Dallas Cowboys. Let's choose to believe that as we close the book on 2024. Thanks so much for hanging out. See you next time.